And this is the funny thing about solo games, because at first it doesn't make sense. You're like, wait a minute, he wants to go down there. If there's a boss monster, why does he want to go down there? It's a pet basilisk. Suddenly it makes more sense why this hobbit is so scary. Alright, so we will start with Ruhiel. So we will be having Ruhiel the Cult Initiate go into the secret pits. You know, who is Ruhiel? Looking at his character sheet for a minute so you can see it there. So he is an elf ancestry with a cult initiate background. He is chaotic. He worships the god Ramlat. He's very intelligent, a little bit lower in wisdom and constitution and charisma, and he's got above average dexterity and very, very low strength. Then looking at his gear, he's got a bow with 5 arrows, he's got 10 iron spikes, and he's got flint and steel. So just keep that in mind with what he has. His personality, he's optimistic, basically about his cult's plans to take over the world. He's optimistic about that. So they're trying to find Shune's litany. So we know that they are being sent down into this dungeon to get this litany of the spirits, and that people that die in this dungeon, this litany, for whatever reason, is bringing them back as vengeful spirits. They're supposed to go down and get it and come back, and I think that they're probably going to be promised, their freedom. Okay, so Ruhiel, the Cult Initiate, he wants to obtain Shune's litany. He's aware that it exists. He wants to obtain it for his cult, because his cult believes that with Shune's litany, they can raise the spirits of the dead, go to the graveyard or whatever, go to the city morgue and just, raise all hell and bring about the end of the world. So he got himself captured to go to the secret pits on purpose. So this is his mission. So he's optimistic. He's like, everything's going to plan. Okay. So Ruhiel is in a cell, and he's in the secret pits, and that's going to be the first place that we figure out. It's the cell block. Let's just roll red. So the cell block is going to start right here. So we'll roll to see kind of what the room is shaped like, and we're going to re-roll past you. So the cell block has a doorway out this side and this side. How many cells are in here? Let's say when we're rolling size in this, a 1 or 2 is a smaller room, a 3 and a 4 is kind of a medium-sized room, and then a 5 and a 6 is going to be a large room. Okay, so it's a medium-sized room about. So we've got 4 of these cells on each side. Somebody comes. The warden comes. And the warden is the person that's kind of doing the dirty work and sending people down to the secret pits to go brave this dungeon. Let's figure out who the warden is real quick. Just rolling on these tables. Warden walks. He's a halfling. He's a hobbit. He's a hobbit warden. Let's roll up a few more things and see if there's a reason why there's a hobbit coming in. So let's see. He's an adult, and his alignment is 5. He's chaotic. So he's a bad guy. That makes sense. How wealthy is he? He is standard. Okay, he's a lapdog. He works for somebody higher. And what does he look like? This hobbit, this halfling, has a cleft chin, speaks loudly, and he has a pet basilisk. Okay, so suddenly it makes more sense why this hobbit is so scary. He walks in and he has this big lizard thing that you don't want to look straight in the eyes, right? Because bad things happen when you look at a basilisk. Let's say that this thing has blinders on its face, and then he has like a collar or something, and he can pull it, and then the blinders come off, and the basilisk eyes shoot open and do terrible things. So that's how he wields power. So the warden has a pet basilisk, and he speaks loudly, and he's intimidating. And we can skip occupation because we know who the warden is. So he walks in and he announces himself. Let's figure out what his name is real quick. Ooh, it's a her. So the warden's name is Evelyn. So the warden walks in, Evelyn, the warden, who has a pet basilisk. And what should the pet basilisk's name be? Why don't we name it like one of these goblin names just to be fast? Okay, the pet basilisk's name is Crick. Okay, so Evelyn and her pet basilisk, Crick, walk into this room. And Ruhiel, kind of his eyes go wide. He didn't realize, there's this creature, that's really dangerous. And she goes over and she starts unlocking his cell. And it's almost like she says the same exact thing every single time. She's almost kind of bored about it, but she's still loud and intimidating. And she's like, if you want to get out of here, which is behind that door, and she motions this way. So this is we know now that the exit is this way, right? So she's like, if you want to get out of here, you have to go down and you have to get the scroll. Shune's litany. You're going to have to be careful. The dead are angry. And she motions to the table, and he gets the equipment that we basically rolled up for him. He goes over and he pulls off a bow with 5 arrows, some iron spikes, flint and steel. So he gets 1 torch. She says you have time limit on this. Time limits make things tricky because you have to it adds an element of choice where you have to consider every single thing that you do. And that makes sense because we have the torch burning. Just wondering, based on, we don't know the size of the dungeon yet. I think it's fair to assume that there'll be some more torches or sconces or whatever down there. So yeah, she says, you only get 1 torch. They're limited in supply, but come back and we can give you more if you make it that long. She kind of laughs. Ruhiel's like not phased. He's like, his mind is set on what he's doing. He's like, I'm gonna go get this scroll from my cult. And so he is going to basically just make his way towards this out the other way, and he's going to light his torch. So his torch is now lit, so we have 10 rounds before this torch goes out, and so that'll be kind of our first sub goal, is we want to find another light source before our torch runs out. And yeah, we want to start exploring this dungeon and figuring out where the heck is this scroll. We will basically say that moving and doing something in a room counts as an action, and that takes about 10 minutes, and then we will tick down our torch. And so yeah, we've got about 10 rooms that we can go through and explore, or 10 passageways or whatever. So Ruhiel leaves the cells and the other prisoners, and he enters in here. So what does he find in this first room? So it just opens up into a passage, and he walks down, and he comes down another passage, and say that this is kind of sloping downwards, going into the ground. It's like up until that point it was more of a kind of man-made structure, and now it's kind of gradually descending and turning into something that's more cavernous, more a little bit like less natural, and more like the Shadowdark. So he comes down through this passage, and look at that, very fitting. And he comes to these stairs, and these stairs lead him downwards. So we'll just put the stairs right there. And at the bottom of the stairs, he comes to a room. So what's in this room? So we will roll on this room type table right here. We're going to roll twice and take the worst result. It's going to have a minor hazard. And again, we're rolling with disadvantage. So collapsing walls. Okay, so collapsing walls it is. So he steps into this room, and these collapsing walls have some kind of a mechanism that triggers them. Does he trigger the collapsing walls or not? He's a smart guy. He is on the lookout for danger. So Ruhiel walks into this room, and we've definitely ticked down at least one of our light sources. All in front of him, there are different raised portions of the floor. And let's roll a check using Shadowdark's rules to see if he sees this trap. So it really just depends on how well crafted this trap is. I've got to assume that other adventurers, or not adventurers, other, poor unfortunate souls that have died have not made it past this room. So I'm sure that he sees the remains of other people as he walks into this room, whether they're skeletons or even worse, like, bodies that have been crushed within these walls. So I think that he's immediately aware that something's up, and he's on his guard. So the question is, does he see it in time before it actually happens? So let's see here. So I think that we are going to roll some kind of because the stakes are high, if he doesn't see this, then he's going to get crushed. The walls are going to start moving. And so we need to determine if he sees the trap or not. So I'm going to make a roll with his. So looking at the rules, this is an OSR game, and I love the way that, OSR games handle traps, where if the players look in the right place, then they find the trap. But because we're playing solo, we need to abstract that a little bit. We're going to just do an oracle roll. So does Ruhiel spot the trap trigger before setting it off? Yes, he does. It's just a direct yes. Okay, so he sees the trap trigger, and he sees that there's this slightly raised plate coming out of the floor, and so he's going to obviously not step on it. He steps around it. He raises up his robes, or whatever, his cultist robes, to not get blood on them from the other, mangled, disfigured bodies. Walks over to the door for the other room and proceeds forward. So going into the next room, we see that we have so it leads around kind of like a corner. So he goes, and this passage, it leads him forward, and then it kind of curves around, and it leads down into another kind of chamber. There is now different ways that he could go. So this is really where the secret pit starts. It goes in every single direction, and 2 of these passages will knock out torch. So he's already kind of, he's gone down 20% on his torch. So, things are dwindling. We also need to start rolling for random encounters. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll for, on a 1, we get a random encounter. It's deadly, so we check every round. So let's just start doing that now. So coming to this area, does he encounter or see anybody? 4, no. Is this something that we should do with disadvantage because it's a gauntlet? I think yes. Let's really amp it up. So no, we rolled twice, we didn't get anything. So the question now is, can he see anything down one of these passages that would lead him to choose going down that passage? So we'll ask the Oracle that question. Okay, we got a 16 again. That's a yes. So he sees something down one of these passages. So what does he see? So let's roll for that room type. And because he can see the kind of room type and it made him want to go down there, let's say we won't roll with disadvantage here. We'll just roll normally on the room type. Okay, so we got a boss monster. And this is the funny thing about solo games, because at first it doesn't make sense. You're like, wait a minute, he wants to go down there. If there's a boss monster, why does he want to go down there? Because that doesn't make sense. But you know what? We can figure out. We can use our imagination to fill in the blanks of why he would want to do this. So let's see here. Let's ask the Oracle. Let's ask the Oracle this question, because this is interesting. Why would Ruhiel want to go down where a boss monster is if he realizes that there's some kind of a creature in that room, a creature that's powerful, right? So let's do an Oracle question for that. Our numbers are 27 and our numbers are 99. So looking here, 27, reward, and 99, shelter. Okay. So I think that he sees fire coming from that room. He sees light coming from that room. He knows that, he has to keep his torch alight. He has to keep a light source. But he also realizes that there's a creature in this room. So let's roll to see what kind of a boss monster it is, or, what that could be. So we'll roll a d6 here on the table for boss monsters. We got a 1, so physically strongest. Okay. So there's something very strong, like physically extremely strong in there. And there's also some kind of a shelter or a campfire. I'm going to try doing one more Oracle roll to see if this helps us kind of establish what exactly this thing is. Okay, so 99 and 53. So this is rest. Look at that, we're getting rest again. And 53. So there's a guardian in this room. But the guardian doesn't attack unless it's provoked or it's triggered. And people maybe are worried about this guardian. Maybe it looks like a giant suit of armor or something, or like a statue. And there's also like a fire there. I'm thinking like Dark Souls kind of stuff. Ruhiel makes his way in, and I'm sure with his cult leader and his mission, he's kind of been briefed. So maybe he realizes, oh, I'm on the right path. I'm in the right place, and here's where I can just take a moment to kind of like catch my breath. And he knows that this guardian's here, but whatever causes the guardian to come to life, he knows not to do that. Let's go with that. So he rests by the fire. I mean, he doesn't need to heal or anything. Let's say that he's able to basically replenish his torch, and he can do that by pulling out, there's some extra torches or something. So we've got our light back, and as a bonus, we kind of know that there's this area now that we can come back to. Let's roll for the room. So here's this room, and here's this guardian statue thing. It's unmoving. Ruhiel comes in. He stays by the fire, and then this guardian has this big sword, and then he proceeds to go onwards to the next room. So let's see what's in there. Right, so there are stairs. So the stairs proceed to go downwards. So again, the dungeon is getting deeper into the earth, and it's becoming more and more kind of inhuman-like. It's becoming more hazardous. We're going to keep the dungeon kind of finite, but we will say that there's a way through each of these areas in this room. And what is in this room? Roll twice on the table. There's an 8, and there's an 8 again. So we've got a major hazard. So the major hazard in this room on a d6 is a 4, trapping terrain. Okay, Okay, so this chamber that he comes into almost kind of seems, it's kind of like the walls are slowly like pulsating in and out, right? It feels like it's a living entity. And it's got like these big kind of sharp, almost like tusks growing out of the walls. It's kind of a little bit, awful and reviling. And I think that as he walks in, these things are detected to sense intruders, and so they kind of like point inwards and they kind of close together to kind of block his path, and he has to kind of figure out how he can get past these tusks. All right, so I think that we'll spend an action to do this. Ruhiel's going to look around the room and see if he can find anything, maybe some kind of a mechanism that would maybe make these things reset or pull back a little bit less, because I feel like if he tries to walk through them, they're gonna like stab him. They're gonna come together and like catch him in their grasp. So let's ask an oracle question. Does Ruhiel see anything? Does he see anything in this room that could potentially be used to circumnavigate these weird giant teeth? No. But, okay, so Ruhiel does not see into the room that can do it, but something else comes to mind at that moment. And I think that he's going to try using his torch to see if these teeth react to heat. And so he holds out his torch. We'll say that costs an extra amount of light to do that. He's kind of burning down his torch more by doing that. And so does that then cause the teeth to react to the heat of the torch? Let's roll the oracle again for this. Okay, so we got a twist. So let's see what happens when we get a twist. So 21 and 84. So arrive and decay. Okay, so I think that when he holds up the torch to the teeth, the room kind of senses what he's doing and it reacts to him. And it releases this really horrible poisonous gas. Just starts coming out of the teeth, starts coming out of the walls, like it's just around him, and he didn't realize that this would happen. Is the gas flammable? No, but the gas is not flammable. But it's still, upon touching the skin, it causes this like really awful, irritation, and it's like a chemical or something. And so he's going to try to jump out of that room, and he's going to have to go back the way that he came before. So this room with all the teeth, he stumbles back out of that room, and let's have him roll a save for dexterity to see. Let's make it a difficult. So dexterity is +1, and difficult would be a 15. Does he make it out of the room without getting caught by the gas? We're just going to roll for him. 12 + 1 is a 13. So he gets out, but some of the gas does catch him on let's say like his arm. Okay. And it starts kind of burning. Does it cause him damage? No, it does not cause him damage, which is good because he only has 1 HP, because that probably would have killed him. But let's say that his arm has kind of been burned, and so now he's going to have this like, kind of like acid burn on his arm, and it's going to give him disadvantage if he tries to do anything with that arm. Is he right-handed or left-handed? So yeah, when he tries to do things with his main hand, he's going to get disadvantage on those things. Okay, so he's now standing here at the bottom of the stairway, and he's backing up so he's not getting the gas, and the gas starts seeping out of this room, and so he backs up back into this room with the fire and the guardian. Does the gas follow him up the stairs? There's another twist. It's getting interesting all of a sudden, isn't it? All right, so what is the twist here? He backed up into the room with the guardian. I've got a feeling the twist has something to do with the guardian. So 72 the twist is contain, and 29 is discovery. Okay. Contain discovery. As he backs into the room, maybe he trips over something, and he notices something that wasn't there before. And it turns out to be like some kind of a piece of equipment, something that can help him. That's the twist. And that's kind of a good twist, and I'm okay with that, So he finds some kind of a piece of equipment. So let's roll randomly on the equipment table and determine what he finds. A crowbar. Okay, so he trips. He has a crowbar now. So he scoops it up with his left hand, because his right hand is like kind of steaming and a little bit melted, and he now has a crowbar that he's clutching to his chest, along with all his other stuff. Crowbar will be useful, I think. Right, he decides that he's going to come back this way. He's going to go see if he can find a different way down into the Shadowdark. Okay, so it leads to a room. So we'll roll 2d10 and take the worst thing. Okay, we got a 3 and a 4, so it's either a trap or a minor hazard. So we got to decide what's worse. I think that the trap is going to be worse than the minor hazard. Let's roll on the trap table. We'll see. It's a 6, so it's a large and ensnaring. It's a gas trap, which is funny because we just barely experienced that. And it's ensnaring, so I mean, I guess it'd be like paralyzing gas. Let's say that this room that's down here lower in the dungeon has some kind of a ventilation thing, and the gas is coming up through this ventilation, and it's coming through this room in this vent. And so he walks into this room and he sees that this gas is coming out of this vent, right? And he's like, oh no. And so he definitely wants to avoid that if he can. Is the gas going to be hard to avoid? Maybe, but maybe, but we'll need to roll for it. So let's do a dexterity, and we'll make this one a little bit closer to a 50-50. I feel like that works. So it's not going to be a difficult test. It's going to be the level below it. It's going to be normal. So we're rolling. We're looking for the target number of a 12. And we're rolling with our dexterity to kind of get out of the way as that gas is coming up. All right, a 6. So we don't get out of the way. So we catch the gas. And does the gas damage us? No, we don't get out of the way. But by the time the gas hits us, I guess that its potency has kind of dissipated. And so it is kind of ensnaring, so maybe it causes us to seize up a little bit. And this is a good time to roll for that random encounter to see if something happens, which I've been forgetting to do. So roll twice. So no random encounter. All right, but we're ensnared. So let's say that for 1d4 rounds we're going to be paralyzed by that gas, even though it didn't burn us. So 4. So our light source is going to tick down by 4 points as we kind of let that paralysis wear off. And we will proceed to head this way and see what awaits us in the next room. Okay, so there's a corridor going straight. Ruhiel will head down that corridor, and the corridor continues. At that point, the torch wanes a little bit. The torch is about halfway gone. This is kind of a choice. So do we push forward into the unknown, or do we double back and go do this? But then the trade-off there is rolling for random encounters. Our torch is only halfway down. And it is possible that we can, find something on the way. So let's keep going. Okay, so he gets here and he comes to a kind of a double room right here. So, all right, and what is in this room? So we'll roll the d10 twice. So it's a major hazard either way. So let's see what this major hazard is. 4, entrapping terrain, drowning hazard. I think entrapping terrain is probably the more dangerous thing. And we already kind of did this room with like these weird tusks. I don't want to repeat that if we can help it. So let's roll for an encounter. 2, no. And 1, yes. Okay. So when he comes to this room, there's like these heavy chains hanging from the ceiling, just they're really hard to maneuver through and stuff, and he starts trying to push his way through and the chains start rattling and he hears a noise, which is the random encounter. Okay, so now we got to roll for the encounter. 112. Here we go. Encounters in a tomb. It's appropriate. 56 is 2d4 ghouls tear through the walls where they were buried. Okay, so he hears these ghouls kind of just shrieking and running at him from all sides, and the chains just... Let's jump to the ghouls to see what we got. We got 2d4 of them. 4 ghouls. So gray-skinned, slavering undead with whipping tongues and flat reptilian faces. Immune to morale checks and anything paralyzed. So how close are they to him will determine our distance. They're close. Just coming right through the chains. What were they doing before? We'll roll twice. 5, 4, 9. They were socializing, playing, so they were doing ghoul things, just hanging out with each other, but the chains rattled, and now they're coming for him. So we roll 2d6, and we take his charisma modifier. So we've got 7 minus 1 is they're hostile. Okay, so yeah, they run for him, and we go to combat, and this might be the end for Ruhiel. We'll see. They're undead, yeah, so they're always hostile. Okay, so they're coming at him. We're just going to roll initiative. Everybody makes a dexterity check. So rolling for the monsters. So they got an 8, and then Ruhiel got a 19 plus 2. So he's going first. So yeah, he's trying to get away from these guys, and he's going to get ready and fire his bow at one of them. So he will retreat out into the hall, and as they emerge from the chains coming towards him, he fires his bow. So he will get to roll an attack of just +1. And these guys have a AC of 11, so pretty likely he's going to hit them. 16. Boom. He hits them, and he does 1d6 damage with that arrow. So he does 3 damage, which they've got 11 HP each. So yeah, he knocks one down to 8 HP. So yeah, it's mad. It doesn't like that. And then it's their turn, and he drops his torch. He drops his torch to try and ready his bow. So that's not good. So the torch is laying on the ground. Does the torch go out? Maybe it does, and something else happens. Drop the torch on the ground. It might have gone out. And what else happens? We got a twist. Okay, so rolling more twists than I thought we would. Let's roll that twist, and then we're going to have the ghouls get to go, and they're probably going to kill poor Ruhiel, but we'll see. So we got 55 and 68. So invite kindness. Invite kindness. Maybe Ruhiel, with his cult, these ghouls are coming for him, and he realizes that he is about to die. Oh, let's see. Let's think about it. Invite kindness. What does that mean? But what's the twist? All I can think is that he is a cultist being attacked by undead. So the ghouls are running towards Ruhiel, and he's like gritting his teeth, knowing this is it for him. Suddenly there's a different sound, and it's like this guttural rumble, and the ghouls look at each other, and they scatter away real quick. They head back into the chains, and Ruhiel is confused, and then he sees this figure walking out of the chains, and it's glowing green. It's one of these spirits, one of these vengeful spirits. It's advancing towards Ruhiel with its hand outstretched, and he sees that its eyes are kind of sunken and hollow, and it's got that kind of jaw hanging. I'm kind of thinking of the Army of the Dead in Lord of the Rings. It's heading towards him with his hand outstretched. And so my next question is, does Ruhiel accept his fate? Does he take this hand of this being that's reaching out towards him? He does. So he grabs the hand, so Ruhiel expects to die as he extends his hand, and the figure takes him by the hand, but he doesn't die. What happens to Ruhiel? Let's ask that question. What does the figure do with him? 77 and 46. So the figure... Okay, let's think about wealth a little bit differently, because what else is valuable besides just gold and gems? I think age and health is valuable. So the figure takes his hand, and Ruhiel slowly feels his life force start to get drained out of him, and he sees that the figure is its jaw is coming back up a little bit, and its eyes are starting to slowly come out of their sunken sockets. It's basically taking his life force, and it looks like it's de-aging, it's becoming younger, and and he's feeling incredibly drained by all this. So it's stealing his life force, and it's becoming stronger, becoming younger by doing so. Does Ruhiel die? That's our question. Well, we kind of already asked that question, didn't we? So I don't think we can ask the same question multiple times. So Ruhiel is slowly aging to the point where his hair is turning gray, and he's becoming very wrinkled and decrepit. And when the figure is done with him, does it just walk off, leaving him as a feeble old man? Yes, and so yes, the figure walks off and leaves Ruhiel drained. He's lost his youth. He's gained 40 or 50 years in age. In fact, why don't we roll for it? So Ruhiel has gained, assuming he was in his 20s, 40 years. So yeah, he's now in his 60s, but he's still alive. And I think he looks down at his hands, and he sees that they're wrinkled and leathery, and he's not sure what to think of it. And he reaches out to pick back up his torch. Did his torch go out during all of this? Maybe, but it can be relit. So he uses his flint and steel, and he lights his torch. So Ruhiel, I don't think, wants to go back through the chains because the ghouls are in there. So I think he turns and he makes his way back into this room. At this point, the gas is dissipated from the vent, and he's going to come down and explore this southern passage here. No, he's not. I think Ruhiel is thinking of things a little bit differently, and he's realizing he's barely escaped with his life, and maybe he's extremely tired with his many years gone by. And so I think Ruhiel makes his way back up the passage and returns to the cells, And he enters the cells, and the other prisoners gasp, and it's like the old man walks in stumbling and coughing, and his arm is all, you know, burned, and he's kind of like out of breath and hunched over. And Evelyn comes back in with the basilisk. Does Evelyn know about this aging situation where the spirits can drain like the age or the life force out of their victims? No, she doesn't. Yeah, that's an exceptional no. So she has no idea. She's just like, she doesn't even realize that it's Ruhiel. She's like, who are you? And Ruhiel, at that point in time, collapses and everything goes black. And we're going to stop it there for now because I'm feeling kind of tired. Solo role-playing games can be pretty draining, but I think we've got a good start. And I think we've kind of played out the first part of the dungeon with Ruhiel, where it was not successful, and it went a couple of interesting ways. So we're not going to cover those exact same ways in the next game we play. We're going to play it a little bit differently. The dungeon still has the same layout, but we will skip through parts to kind of explore the rest of the dungeon using these other characters. And so let's just roll to see who we're going to play next time. Rolling a d3, we got Junar. So Junar will be our next... The Elven Sailor will be our next hero that we play through this gauntlet. Alright, thank you for watching.